Hi guys, welcome to the Desmos portion of the review. Um, the first part of Desmos is it's just going to ask you to give a lot of information on the graph. So we're going to talk about how Desmos is going to help you. So the first thing I'm going to do is type in this first equation, and something else that's going to help me is I'm going to push this table button, and that's going to help me fill out my XY chart. So let's see. So my vertex, let's click on my vertex and find that. So my vertex is going to be 0, 7. And Desmos is not going to help you with this. So the axis of symmetry, don't forget, that's the same as your x value. Desmos does help you with your y-intercept, and in this case, they're both the same, but that's not always the case. And our domain, again, Desmos is not going to help us. That's the set of all reals. And my range, anytime it opens down like this, it's going to be y is less than or equal to whatever the y value of your vertex is. So it's going to look like that. Don't forget your vertex always goes in the middle of your chart, your XY chart. And then we're just going to work around that. So sometimes Desmos, their numbers line up really good, but other times it's not going to. And we're going to have to know when we follow this chart exactly and when we don't follow the chart. So we'll kind of talk about that today. Okay, so it looks like 1 is 5. So if I know 1 is 5, I also know that this guy is 5, -1. And 2 is -1, so that means that this is -1. So I'm going to go ahead and graph the point. Okay, and your graph should look something like this. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to number 2. So I'm going to get rid of these two, and I'm going to go on to the second one. So again, I'm going to push the table button, and it's going to give me a whole bunch of values. So I'm going to, let's see, let's find the vertex. So this is always going to be our starting point. So I notice that my vertex is 2, -3. So that is always going to go in the middle of my chart, like that. And so notice that that is not in the middle of your chart here. So we need to like kind of work around that. So I see 2, -3. I'm going to fill out. So there's 1, there's 0, there's 3, and there's 4. And so again, I know that these are the same and these are the same. So let's see if I can find any of them. Oh, I see 1. 1 is 0. So I'm going to put a 0 here. So if this is 0, that's also 0. And let's look for 0. 0 is 9, okay? And so I know that that's 9. So it actually gives me everything I need. But sometimes you just have to work with it. Okay, all of these are pretty much the same. So I'm gonna just post the answer key here, and then we're gonna move on to other things. So this is everything you need for the first page. I'm going to kind of scroll down a little bit. So if you need some help, go ahead and push pause. Just really look at everything that I've done here. Okay, the next part, we're going to talk about using Desmos to help us. So I'm going to get to where I need. So right here. Okay, so when you're solving, Desmos is going to give you, I'm going to make this bigger. Desmos is going to give you just like straight lines. It doesn't matter what kind of function you have. When you're solving, Desmos is going to look like that. So my answer is going to be like x equals 1 and x equals 8. So, um, so I'm going to have x equals 1 and x is equal to 8. And again, it's where those lines cross the x-axis. Let me make this bigger. There it is. So it's like these right here. That's what we're looking for. Okay, let's go to the next one. So the next one, we have C's, and we can't use C. So if you'll notice, I used X's here. So just make sure you're doing that, and let's see. So I'm going to have C is equal to -8, and C is equal to 9. Okay, let's go on to number 7. Number 7, I have B is equal to 1.5, And what's this one? B is equal to 6. So you just have to, Desmos isn't perfect here, but you just have to know kind of what to do. This one is actually not a parabola. If you'll notice, like if we combine like terms and solve for x, it's just it would just be a normal like basic algebra 1 problem. So when I graph this, I'm just going to have one solution, and that's going to be x is equal to 2. Absolute values, for some reason, if you'll notice, I can't click on the button. So I'm going to have to zoom in and have it like kind of tell me what the answer is. So this isn't perfect, but it gets the job done. So I have, let's see, x equals -5 here. And let's go over here. I have x is equal to 6. Okay, last one, this one. We have x is equal to 5. And let's see. We have x is equal to -5. So it looks like that. Okay, now we're going to go on to word problems. And so here's some things that we've kind of talked about. So this is like the path of our, what are we throwing? We're throwing a math book into the air. So it's starting out at 16 feet high when it like starts to fly, right? You're starting to throw it. So it starts out at 16 feet high, and then it gets up to 25 feet high. And it took 3 seconds to do that. And then it falls back down to the ground. So that 0 represents the ground, and it took 8 seconds to get there. Okay, so that kind of tells us a story, so we're just going to answer the question. So identify, so I'm on number 9 over here, identify the following from the graph. Okay, so the maximum height, I'm going to say 25. The time that it took to get to the maximum height was 3 seconds. The total time in the air was 8 seconds. And then the height of the building that we threw the math book off of is going to be 16 feet. Okay, so this one, number 10, is super similar. So let's talk about it. So it's kind of the same story here. So it leaves, so right here, the maximum height, let's see, is going to be 18. The time at the maximum height, it took 2 seconds. The total time in the air is 5 seconds. And then the height of the balcony. So we threw it off right here. And so that's going to be 10 feet high. So let's go to the next part. These get a little bit trickier. This one isn't too bad. So we're going to bring this up here. It just gets really tall. So it says find the maximum height of the fireworks. So I'm going to come up here and right there. So it's going to be 70.25. So it's not always going to be a nice number. That's okay. So this is 70.25 feet. And then the number of seconds it takes for the fireworks to hit the ground. Okay, so let's see. So it's going to hit the ground. We're going right here. So we want, like, we're looking for when y is 0. That's when it hits the ground. And so I'm going to have to round off a little bit here. That's okay. So I'm going to have 3.22 seconds. Okay, number 12 is very similar, but we have to fill in what we know. So remember, this S kind of stands for the starting height. And so that's 35. And then the velocity V is going to be 20. So it's going to ask for an equation. So I'm going to say -16t squared plus 20t plus 35. And that's going to be our equation. That's what it's going to ask for on the test as well. And then how long was the soccer ball in the air for? So I'm going to go ahead and change the function on. Okay, and so we're looking for when it hit the ground, basically. And so that's going to be at 2.23 seconds. Okay, number 13 is an area problem, and I do not think that this is drawn to scale at all. But we're going to have to multiply length times width and set it equal to the area. And we're going to have Desmos do this for us to make it super duper easy. So that's what we're going to type in to Desmos there. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, so we have this going on, and if you'll notice, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I have two answers. I have a negative answer and I have a positive answer. So think about number 13. We are talking about a length of like a rectangle in this case. So really this negative 11 is not going to help us at all. So I'm just going to kind of ignore him and just look at the positive answer. So my positive answer is x is equal to 7, but it didn't ask us what x is equals. It asked us what's the length and the width, and it really doesn't matter what you call the length and what you call the width, the way this is worded. So I'm going to plug in 7 here, and I'm going to plug in 7 here. So when I plug in 7 down below, 7 plus 5 is 12, so I'll call that our length. And then our width, 3 times 7 minus 2, that's going to give me 19. And these are in meters. I'm going to squeeze an M in there. Okay, the next one is the same way. So I'm just going to change these numbers here. Okay, and so again, just like before, I have a negative answer. I don't care about that. I just want the positive answer. So x is equal to 8. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in 8 here and 8 here. And so I get 12 by 13. And in this case, it's going to be feet. Let's switch gears a little bit. So for this problem, we are going to type in the function. And it says, what is the vertex? Okay, so we know that we go here for the vertex, so it's going to be 0, -8. And then what are the solutions for the graph? So we just talked about this. So the solutions are going to be where they cross the x-axis. So sometimes you'll see it as like x equals -4 and x equals +4, or you might just have the coordinate. Either one you'll see. So let's go ahead and do this next one. Okay, so we have that. And again, let's see, our vertex is going to be -2, -4. And let's see, where does it cross the x-axis? At -6, 0 and at 2, 0. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So the graph of f of x is shown on the right. If the graph is translated right 4 units and up 5 units to create a new graph, what is the equation of that graph? Okay, so the first thing I want you to remember is this formula is super helpful. Okay, and so I'm going to really look at the vertex. I'm going to go right 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to be my new vertex. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out, okay, well, what is that new vertex? So it's going to be 5, 3. Okay, then I have to put it into this graph. So remember, this represents my H and my K. And remember, when 5 is positive on the inside, it's going to look like X minus 5. So if you can't remember that, let's just kind of have a look. So we know that 3, our Y value is K. So I know that it can't be these two. So it has to be one of these. And like I said, never trust your X's. And so that is going to be B for our answer. There is another one like that. It's problem number 18. We're going to kind of jump around a little bit. So problem number 18 is the same way. So it says it's translated left 2 units and down 6 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that would be at -3. And so I have my coordinate point is -2, -3. So again, so on the outside, I know it can't be that one, and I know it can't be that one. And then this is always going to be opposite. So this is going to be x plus 2. So it has to be A. Okay, let's go back here. Now we're going to go the other way. We have two graphs, and we're going to go ahead and graph it and then compare the two. So I put these both in. So if you'll notice, the blue one is my f of x and the green one is my g of x. And I'm really interested in the vertex. So how did I get from here to here? So that's what I'm talking about. So I'm going to take these off. And let's see. So I went up. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see better. So I went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I went up 8. So I'm going to look over here at my answer choices. So I know it can't be these two down here because it said I went down 8. And so let's see. So I'm over here. I went up 8 and I went over to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so right 4. So that is going to be this one. Let's look at this. So it's translated 3 units up. So again, I'm really going to be interested in this formula. That is going to be our friend here. And okay, so 3 units up. So that's going to be our K. And then 7 units right. So if I do 7 units to the right, that's going to be x minus 7. Like that. And then I didn't, it just said that it's dilated in some way. I think, yeah, vertically dilated. That just means I don't care what A is. It's going to be some number there. So it's going to look something like that. So let's see. Not that, not that. Okay, so it's right there. It's 4C. 2 more. So if I have this graph, this is our original like parent function, and notice I moved the graph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. So in my head, I know that I affected the h. So let's think about that. So y is equal a x minus h squared plus k. Okay, so if I'm going right 5, then that's going to be x minus 5 squared. And notice something else that it says. It says to create a graph of g of x. So my new graph is going to be g of x, and that is it. Okay, down here, you need to identify the type of function. And so this first one, that's going to be an exponential function. This one is a linear function. This one is a quadratic function. And this one is an absolute value. And that is it.